Geek, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I get on the RotoWire YouTube comments was people liked when you and I squared off in a superflex draft. So I figure let's do it again a month later with a single quarterback. Now, the reason most likely is that as we head into this is dynasty draft startup season. So it's one thing to look at ADP. It's another thing to look at two people that have been in a lot of dynasty drafts actually drafting. Now, this is just a mock draft. So understandably, this is, I always say, you let's see what people do when their money's on the line, but this is close enough. I mean, you and I are pretty true to our boards. So I guess really my first question is, have you done many startup drafts this offseason yet, or are you just now getting into the spirit and this is a good way to dust off the cobwebs?
Yeah, no, I haven't done actual money leagues that are going to last as of yet, but I have been working on my rankings. I've been working on really tiering up these players, which is really, really important. And it's cool that we're doing a non-superflex because, you could really dive into your, in superflex, you're always worried about that quarterback. I got to get two of them. In non-superflex, we can really dive into where we think the running backs and the wide receivers should go. What are they worth? And my big thing is how to differentiate between old guys and young guys. I mean, I know you like the oldies.
Well, I only like the older guys in dynasty drafts because they get discounted more than they should, in my judgment. And at the end of the day, it's about winning. So if Cooper Kupp is going to be wide receiver like 14, wide receiver 17, I've seen him fall to, then, in redraft, he's like wide receiver 3 or 4. That's why I like them. Obviously, because I look at some of my dynasty rosters, I'm like, man, I don't really have a lot of youth on these teams, but it's just when we get in these drafts, it's just so hard for me to pass on value. So we'll see how that plays out today. You're going to pick 4th. I'm going to pick, 8th? And 1 QB, 3 receivers, 2 running backs, normal tight end, no premium scoring there. So let's get off and running here. I'll start the draft, and then, we can kind of talk through some of these picks. We're going to do 16 rounds.
Now, do you have this set up so the ADP, so that the bots are, it's the superflex focused? Because Christian McCaffrey going second seems a little crazy to me.
But Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson both went 1 and 2. I mean, if you look at some of the, Christian McCaffrey, that's a little early. Let's see. Let me make sure it's set up.
It is not set correctly because there's no way Christian McCaffrey needs to be coming off. We're going to have to reset that.
Yeah, hang on one second here. So let me go into the settings. Let's see. Go into the draft settings, and it is set for Dynasty PPR. Yeah, I mean, let's just roll with it.
Yeah. There it is. So, right off the bat, just for me, Christian McCaffrey is not in my top tier of dynasty running back.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to critique what the bots.
Yeah, no, just to clarify though where we're going with it. But my number 1 running back on the board, I'm going with the rookie. I'm going with the rookie Bijan.
Yeah, so Bijan is a very interesting case because, in a lot of credible rankings, he's going to be the RB1. And, I have Ken Walker as my RB1. But, I mean, it's at the top. But just what are you going to do if you're doing a dynasty startup draft? I think this is a good stopping point to talk about it, is if Bijan goes to a place that you don't love. Now, the counter answer is obviously I'm going to love anywhere he goes. But what if he goes to Houston at pick 12? There's a lot of good draft pundits out there saying that Bijan's not going to make it past the Texans. Now, if you're talking about a backfield that has Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary there, would you still mark him as the RB1?
Yeah, don't care about other players. I found in Dynasty, especially coming out of the draft, that if you allow, running backs a little bit more importantly, but a first round highly drafted running back is going to get run. There's no point in drafting Bijan number 12 or 15 overall if you're not going to play him now. The whole idea with running backs is work them when they're young. So yeah, I'm taking him almost no matter what. I mean, I think the worst case scenario would be like the Patriots or something like that. But assuming that didn't happen.
Yeah, the best spot would be Atlanta, right? Would be for him.
great. I mean, I don't know the best. I'd say Buffalo's good. Like, there's a lot of decent
No,
places.
not
Yeah,
Buffalo,
beat
but
probably
Atlanta. Because think about this: Coach Arthur Smith? What did he do in Tennessee? He just made the whole running game the focus of the offense. They haven't done anything in free agency. They have a 5th round running back in Tyler Algier. I mean, they're just going to run in Atlanta, especially with Desmond Ridder. So I think that would be the best spot.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's great. Also, I think Arthur Smith probably fired after the season. Like, we don't know what happens. I just want a talented running back. And interestingly, again, my number 2 running back still on the board. So, the way that you want to build your team is with non-super flex. You weigh on those quarterbacks. You've got to really weigh, hey, what running backs are available, what now, which ones are going to be available later versus what wide receiver group. Like, wide receiver falls off kind of quick at the talent zone. So that's the balance you want to do. But I do like to get that young running back to build around.
Yes. By the way, this is cockamamie that DeAndre. So I guess you know what, in Dynasty, I guess DeAndre Swift is.
It's cockamamie. The wording is right. Like, this is cockamamie. Swift is a cockamamie pick.
I guess the title of the YouTube that was insane and a little reachy. So whoever reached for Swift there, yeah.
I'm horrified by the sleeper bots selections here. I don't know what to tell you. It's just
all right. Well, we'll keep moving
acceptable.
on. All right. So
Cooper Kupp in round 1.
Here. I'm up on the clock here. I took Ken Walker with my first pick. Immediately, I'm thinking Amon-Ra St. Brown. I almost took him in the first round. He would be my wide receiver 3 or 4 in Dynasty. It's close with him and CD and Waddle, but Amon-Ra right there. So you're up in the second round. You took.
I'm going to tell you right now that this was a decision between Bijan Robinson and this guy, Breece Hall, for pick number 4. So there he is in the second round, and I've got the 2 best running backs in Dynasty just about on the starting 2 picks. So YOLO. What are you going to say?
Yeah, what I noticed? You know what I noticed though, and this is actually true of Dynasty startups. You see quarterbacks going early. Josh Allen went at pick 11. On the turn, you had Pat Mahomes go on the 1-2 turn. You have Burrow and Hurts go all in the second round. I think in single quarterback leagues, you're going to see that in Dynasty startups just because you need that position solved. Those guys plus a couple more maybe, and I don't know what you're going to do with this third pick here. It just solves a problem for the foreseeable future.
All right, so I'm just let me get into that for a second. I've been doing fantasy football season long enough to know that the quarterback position runs in cycles. And whenever the cycle hits that point where you start feeling like you need to take those elite quarterbacks in the first couple rounds, whenever that happens, the pendulum will swing the other way violently. So I am just sticking with what I always do, which is saying, all right, you do that. And I don't think it makes a difference in Dynasty. Superflex obviously is different, but in Dynasty versus even season long, like, if you're going to be that guy taking Mahomes in round 1 or Josh Allen in round 2, you're going to be at a disadvantage. At some point, we're going to get back to the point where 12 quarterbacks are fine.
Yep.
Like numbers 9, 10, 11, and 12 start scoring. I'm not sure this year, though.
I'm at a decision point where I want to take another wide receiver here, Geek. So I'm really thinking between 2 guys. I'm thinking between T. Higgins and Chris Olave. Now, T. Higgins, this could be his last year on the Bengals unless they extend him. Chris Olave is going to be with Derek Carr for at least the next 2 seasons. I'm curious. I have in my mind who I'm going to take. Who do you think it should be?
Yeah, this one's pretty close for me. I'm going to go with Olave here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
But it's good to we just picked a bunch of wide receivers, so I want to kind of point out that we are in a really, really good tier of what I'd call build your team around them, still young elite wide receivers that we've been able to get. Like Olave, super young, looks like he has a ton of upside. Garrett Wilson, I didn't talk about that pick, but come on. All right, come on. Is Garrett Wilson a top 5 wide receiver long term?
Oh, in Dynasty, he's going top 5. I mean, so I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, come on.
Oh, you agree with it?
Yeah. Like, I took Garrett Wilson. I love this guy. Right. So these are like the new kids. And Olave looks to have that same sort of cachet going for him. So there's a few more of these guys left. Not many. There's probably 3 more wide receivers. I say you could build your team around this guy. Still hanging around.
And
Don't
now,
want to tell you who.
so, I know you and I are both eyeballing Devontae Smith at this point. I don't know if that would be a little bit of a reach. I know that you're going to take him if I don't. So here's my decision point. So if right now I'm picking from pick 8 and we're in the 4th round. So Smith is the number 1 guy on my board. You and I have pointed out that Smith and A.J. Brown, the stats don't look that different from last year, and we can't imagine why they would be that different from fantasy points perspective in 2023, 24, and 25. But right now, I think I'm going to pivot to tight end, understanding that I'm going to like the receivers more than I'm going to like the tight ends on the next spin around. So even though he hasn't done it yet to what we thought, Kyle Pitts in the 4th round in a dynasty league seems like the right pick here. I guess just quickly, do you agree with my play the ADP? I knew, is Smith worth giving up for Pitts in that spot that I was in?
No.
Okay.
No. But I would take the wide receiver there. You got to build around this youth. You got to build. Devontae Smith, by the way,
Kyle Pitts is pretty young, man.
Yeah, but he hasn't proven that he's very good. We'll see. Listen, I like Kyle Pitts. He's fine. And right after him went Hawkinson, who's great also. And there's 5 or 6 more tight ends that I'm totally cool with. But you know what I'm not cool with? Passing up on Devontae Smith, who I believe is the same upside and the same scoring potential as A.J. Brown, but 4 rounds later. Like, if you look at the current season, full season receptions and yardage props for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown have the same props, meaning most people are misinterpreting A.J. Brown as like the 1 with Smith as the 2. I haven't seen that. I don't believe it. None of it stands out for me. So I'm in another interesting spot here. And again,
so just real quick there, you see team 3 about taking 2 young quarterbacks. Now you say, wait a second, this is a single quarterback league, but I have seen this happen in actual 1 QB dynasty startups. The philosophy is that quarterback in one QB is pushed down the board, but when the draft is over, there's a tier of 6 that will net you a position player better than the ones that are on the board. Again, I know what you're saying.
This is a horrible approach.
But that is for example, Javonte Williams went a round and a half earlier than Trevor Lawrence. But in dynasty leagues, I'm looking at the FFPC stuff, and I see Trevor Lawrence getting traded for more value than Javonte Williams, given Williams might not be himself or play at all for the first couple months of this season. So agree, disagree. It is something that is happening. So I want people in the chat right now, sound off. Where are you going to start drafting quarterbacks in a single quarterback dynasty startup? Start with the elite guys. Are you willing to take Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow in the first 2 rounds? Is that a good idea, bad idea? Let us know in the chat. All right, Geek, you're up. So far, you've drafted 2 running backs. You took Bijan at 4th overall. Breece Hall fell to you in the 2nd round, probably due to his injury concerns heading into the season. Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith, amazing picks right there in a dynasty startup. So you're up on the 5th round. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm keeping it youthful here. And I'm keeping it wide receiver. And I really think that if you build your long-term dynasty, this team is ridiculous and it's getting better and better. It's like absurd what I'm going to do to this league. But if you have the nice thing about youthful wide receivers that are fairly locked into being good is they last for a really long time. So these other areas like your tight end spot, your even your quarterback, these other things can be figured out. And I am a very firm believer at the most of the running back position being something you could figure out even at the beginning of a season. Like you said, you look at the guy who's got James Conner, right? And his team's not very good, and he wants to rebuild this year. And just you get him for a second. The Joneses, the Aaron Joneses of the world. You can get him for a second just about right now. You don't have to pay much for older. You might even be able to get Derrick Henry for kind of like a prospect or something that's not that painful to give up. If your team is built to win, you've got all these awesome wide receivers and other positions. You need that one running back to take you over the edge. So I feel like you could fill that out, but try getting a young elite wide receiver from someone in a trade. Good luck with that.
Shout out to our people in the chat, to our guy John Laub who joined us, and our guy Kevin B. Man, you know who you are. We play in a million leagues with him, and our guy John Laub, who's also a special guest, a regular guest on the RotoWire podcast. All right, we're doing a 1 QB draft here. Geek, on the Sonic Truth podcast that I do with the Player Profiler guys, we had a big discussion on Rachaad White. We believe at this point he deserves top 12 running back consideration in Dynasty. So I am thinking about him right there. I'm wondering if I play the waiting game, if I can get him in the next round, because there's some wide receivers, but the wide receiver tier that's coming up here that consists of guys like Pittman and DJ Moore and Jameson Williams, I'm almost okay with whatever falls to me there. So I'm going to play the ADP game again and take Rachaad White, who the coach has endorsed as a 3-down back at this point. And I mean, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, if it's Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, or if they upgrade to like Lamar Jackson. I think at this point, we're looking at a young running back still, even though he's older, for a second-year player that you can count on for 3 years. So are you on board with Rachaad White as a top 12, top 14-ish dynasty running back? And do you agree with playing the ADP there? Because actually, I just lost Jameson Williams, which was the guy I was targeting in the next round.
Almost could have gotten him. I would have been. Yes, I am on board. I like White. What's not to like about Rachaad White, by the way? He has size, which I love. He can catch the ball, meaning he's going to be on the field for 3 downs. The only thing we really haven't seen. Oh, Charbonnet went, and I wanted him.
Yeah.
The only thing we haven't seen out of Rachaad White is like NFL level durability, but we haven't seen that out of any rookie. We never know, but yeah, I like White there. I think the choice for me there was White or J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins sort of fallen off the radar just a smidge right now, but what's not to like about J.K. Dobbins also? He's going to have the backfield, should finally get a chance to sort of lead it. Unfortunately, doesn't really catch many passes, so that style of running back isn't the best.
And what if Lamar's not on the team, man? What if it's...
Might be better. Might be better. No, Lamar could be better for him.
Yeah, good point.
I'm not against that.
If where do you think is the most likely place Lamar gets traded if they do a sign and trade?
Tampa?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I brought that up on the Sonic Truth, and they didn't really like that idea. I thought maybe Tennessee also with like a 3-way trade with Trey Lance. You know what I'm saying?
There have been rumors already about Trey Lance going to, I think, Tennessee as well.
Yeah, but the 3-way trade would be that Lamar goes to San Francisco. That's what it is. That Trey Lance goes to Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill goes to Baltimore. And obviously some other trade equity to balance it out, but that would be the quarterback carousel. It's getting a little cockamamie as we get into it. But Geek, you're on the clock. I love that you went your 2 running backs. You got your 3 wide receivers with Christian Watson as your WR3. So what are you going to do here? Are you going to continue to ignore the onesie positions of quarterback and tight end, or are you going to dip in?
So I'm looking at the quarterback position, and unfortunately, what happens here in a 12-team league is there's no one good left, right? Team 3 hogged up multiple quarterbacks.
But do you see the strategy now, right? Like that guy can trade Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence for any of the players that just went off, obviously, plus maybe a little bit more. Let's just say the guy who has Jameson Williams, right, he would give up Jameson Williams plus to even in a single quarterback to get Justin Fields. So you see why that strategy is viable. Even that's why we do these exercises, because in the past we would have said this is insane. But when there's a have and a have nots at QB, it is a viable dynasty strategy. Not without risk, but it is viable.
It's extremely dangerous.
But it does have upside. You admit.
Yes.
Okay.
But so I've done that before, and I will tell you, and eventually get that.
By the way, pick so we can keep this moving.
Yeah, let's keep going. But relying on a trade
and pick
is
again,
not a good idea in your startup. I get it, but it tends to be a mistake. Like you don't want to go in being like, oh, I'll find somebody in the league to try. No.
Yeah, but when because it's impossible to make trades. In Dynasty, it's a little easier to make trades than like a typical redraft. But by the way, you picked Dallas Goedert. I like that pick. A bunch of the young wide receivers and Keenan Allen go off the board at that point. Treylon Burks, George Pickens. And now we're into the 7th round where Marquise Brown and Brandon Ayuk go. Brandon Ayuk, Geek, is rumored to be could be end up in Kansas City.
Really?
Yeah. So if, like, for example, Kansas City, the 49ers need a first-round pick. They don't have one. And this is the one, this is part of that Trey Lance deal. And the Chiefs have basically the 31st pick, which is the last pick this year since the Dolphins don't have a first-round pick. And, I mean, they basically would make a profit. Ayuk's going to need to be paid soon. It makes sense for the Chiefs. Good deal for both sides, right?
I mean, it would be great. I don't know why the 49ers would be looking to get rid of a Brandon Ayuk.
It's not get rid of. It's just that they're going to have to pay him, and they don't have a first-round pick. They have Deebo Samuel. They have George Kittle. They have pass catchers that they feel comfortable with. Danny Gray last year, who didn't get any run, was a 3rd-round pick. They must be liking what they see from him. They have Christian McCaffrey, who's used in the passing game, that if you need to address some other needs with a 1st-round pick, I mean, it's going to cost you something.
Yeah, I don't know. I would hold on to him because I think Deebo Samuel has proven to be a little bit injury prone, and it's concerning to go into a season where you'd be relying on a Deebo if you're the 49ers to make it through. Like, he hasn't made it through a season really, or there is extreme risk of him getting hurt. So they better have somebody else if they move him. But I'm fine with Ayuk. I think if Deebo gets hurt, Ayuk becomes the number 1 again.
So Zach Charbonnet went. Where did Jahmyr Gibbs go? Because
he went early.
Yeah, I was looking for him in the queue, and he was picked up. Gibbs went at 4.3. Now, between Gibbs, who's the Alabama product that has the pass catching chops, the pass catching upside, and Zach Charbonnet, I was looking. Did you see what the DraftKings odds are for Gibbs to go the 2nd running back? Everyone knows Bijan's going to be the 1st running back. Take a guess. What do you think the odds are? Without looking, Gibbs is minus. Gibbs to go 2nd.
For him to go 2nd?
Yeah, is minus. So it's a fake.
It's minus?
Yeah.
Minus 105? Like, it should be just barely.
Minus 2,000.
What?
Yep.
I don't get this.
I don't get it either. And Charbonnet's plus 550. I wish it was plus 850, but I'm going to sprinkle a little on Charbonnet to be the 2nd running back off the board.
Dude, let's address this trade here real quick, but dude, no one's giving you Rachaad White. You can put that I can't move that into the chat, but for Jay Todd, no one's giving you Rachaad White.
Wait, hold on a second. There's other people that have no context. Let's
how do you move that into the chat?
Yeah, but hold on a second. But okay. The comment that you wanted to address is no luck acquiring Rachaad White yet in Dynasty. Tried pure straight up in 2 leagues. Yeah, I mean it's more or less Rachaad White. He is gettable. I still think at this point, you're going to have to pay the premium. Like if you want to give up pick 105, you'll get him. I mean.
Or 108. I mean, you got to give up something that hurts a little bit.
You're gonna have to pay the freight. We all know the Geek. What's one of the biggest things that we say, that the reason that sometimes you have to take the running backs over the receivers in these startup drafts. Yes, it's nice to draft T. Higgins and Chris Olave, but sometimes you have to take the running backs because they just become so expensive once the draft is over, because everyone needs running backs, and you can fill in your roster spots in a startup draft with older wide receivers. Keenan Allen's going to fall to the ground. Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins. You'll be able to fill those slots in like round 8, 9, and 10. Running backs, once you get into around 8, 9, you're like, okay, I guess I could see the case for Kenny Gainwell. So that's why you pay up. Wide receiver points, Geek, are always cheaper in dynasty drafts.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm up here. I'm going to take Jahan. I'm taking Jahan Dotson, by the way. I think
he's take him.
Yeah, he's the wide receiver 1, I believe, over Terry McLaurin in 2023. When he was healthy, he just outproduced him, and now he had better draft pedigree. No, he wasn't paid yet, but he's going to be. So
I'm going to address my previous pick just real quick. Amari Cooper. Everybody hates on Amari Cooper, but all this guy does is produce, and he's not that old. I think he's about 28 years old at this point. He's got a couple elite years ahead of him with Deshaun Watson. So why not? I mean, I've got my youthful sort of 3 young wide receivers. I've got
don't make your pick though. I want to tease because if you what position are you thinking about going with here though?
I've got to go to the quarterback position.
All right, but don't make the pick yet because we're going to take a quick break just for the audio audience. Stick with us because when we come back, Geek's going to shock the world and reach for a quarterback at this point. We'll be right back. And we're back. I'm Alan Seslowsky of RotoWire.com, along with the Fantasy Football Geek. You follow him, as I do, at FFootballGeek of the Sharp app. And we are doing a one-quarterback dynasty startup draft. And amazingly so, Geek, the premium quarterbacks still get drafted early on, and I'm here for it. I understand why. I know there's skepticism is wait on quarterback. But when you could solve a problem for the next 3 to 5 seasons at an elite level with a Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, once he gets paid, there's something to that. So you're on the clock right now. We're in round 8, and you are now going to address the quarterback position. Who are you going with here?
So this will be a controversial pick. You were correct. And I don't care because I think I know more than others. So I'm going with that. And I'm taking Daniel Jones here. Daniel Jones is ranked significant. Like, we're in the zone of weirdness at quarterback. Let's be real.
Just make your other pick while you're talking through Daniel Jones.
I'm actually going to double this down here, and I'm going to pick up Deshaun. But so let me give you a feel for that 1-2 punch. First of all, in Deshaun Watson, we've got this player that we've seen in the past was an elite fantasy scoring quarterback, but obviously with the Browns seems like maybe it's the place where fantasy production for the quarterback position goes to die. I'm not sure. He did not look that great last year. I don't feel comfortable at all going into a season with Deshaun as my starter. I'm fine with Daniel Jones, though, because he broke out at the end of last year in a way that I think was transformational, particularly via his running prowess, right? So I feel like I'm getting like a discount version of Justin Fields a few rounds later. It's not quite Justin Fields level, obviously, but he does run the football. He can throw a little bit. And under Daboll, he has transformed. So I think he got the contract. People forgetting that this guy got a contract. Like, why?
No one's forgetting about it. They just don't see him as an elite guy, but he's insulated. He's going around QB 12. I like that there. And especially
put up elite numbers.
Yep. And it's mostly with the running. He hasn't had a 3-touchdown game in a while, or not many of them, but I'm with you there for fantasy football. I think that's a good spot. When I came back around, Geek, and you could pick while I'm talking through my ninth and 10th round pick, is now I went quarterback. And here's the difference, I think, and here's the takeaway. So listen up, put your ear close to the radio right now, that in a super flex league, you absolutely want 2 elite quarterbacks if you can get them, and certainly you want that second quarterback to have a floor. I am for taking a Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, even Kenny Pickett in a 2-quarterback league where you want that second quarterback to have a floor. In a single quarterback league where it's going to be easier to acquire guys, not easier to acquire elite guys, but I want to take upside shots late. So I went with 2 risky guys here in the 9th and 10th round for my first 2 quarterbacks, and that's Trey Lance and Anthony Richardson. Geek, would you agree that both of those guys have QB1 overall in their range of outcomes over the next 3 or 4 seasons?
Man, hell yeah. I love those picks. Listen, we don't know what's happening.
Okay, stop. I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page here. And now both of them can be out of the league by next year or the year after, right? I mean, Anthony Richardson's going to get a little more of an opportunity, but later on, I'm going to pad that. I'm going to get Derek Carr. I'm going to take, a Desmond Ridder in the rookie draft. Unless you have a top 3 or 4 pick in Superflex, you're never getting good QBs in a rookie draft. If I'm, pick 8 and I want to reach for a quarterback in a single quarterback rookie draft, I'll get my quarterback of the future. So quarterbacks coming next year, the year after, fine. I may not get Caleb Williams, but I'll be able to get a quarterback. So I don't mind swinging for the fence in single quarterback, understanding that the floor can completely fall out. All right, Geek, you in your next couple picks here, you took Evan Ingram, who did a nice job last year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That seemed like a pretty easy pick. Why double up on tight end, though?
At some point, these guys get hurt quite a bit. So if I'm really thinking long-term health of the team, Evan Ingram had like a spectacular year last year, right? Can he do it again? I don't know. But him coming in as the TE2, tight ends do get hurt quite a bit. So I like having 2 of them. And there aren't really, really good. I mean, there's also a value proposition here where he's a pretty good player, and not too many really good players are left on the board. So you start to just grab who has some upside and who can help you here down the road. It is a weird inflection point in a draft now where you start to get beyond elite players, and we're just kind of filling in these yeoman-like, producers for your team. There's still some upside spots. I think I'm going to grab an upside spot here in Kadarius Toney and see if this guy can turn things around a little bit. He looked okay to end of the year last year. We know he has the talent. Maybe he gets you there. Yep. Maybe he turns it around next year. They don't have anybody.
All right, we're in the, what round are we in here, Geek? So I'm going to start definitely going a little rookie crazy in the 12th round. The 12th round here. I'm going to take some upside shots at running back. Roschon Johnson, the rookie running back out of the University of Texas, everyone knows was Bijan's backup. He could end up with 3rd or 4th round draft capital, has the skill set to be a 3-down back. Mario Puig over at RotoWire does not like Roschon. He thinks that he's more of an NFL backup. But, this I'm willing to take a shot there.
What's your, in startup drafts, what's your philosophy about these running backs that go in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round? Are you just taking them blindly in the second, halfway through the second round? You just start like, I don't care. Running back, he's 220 pounds, click the button.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen is that once you get into that's a great question about day 3 running backs, round 3, 4, 5. I think the upside outcome is Dameon Pierce. It's Tyler Algier, and the upside is apparent. They're seasonal starters, or at least give you pockets of 6-7 weeks to fill in a gap. The downside is obviously that they could get usurped or drafted over the following year. So where I'm taking those guys, I mean, Dameon Pierce and James Cook. Well, James Cook was a 2nd round running back. You're going to take those guys at the end of the 1st round of a single quarterback league for sure. But really the opportunity cost there, Geek, is a 1st round draft pedigreed NFL wide receiver, right? I mean, you're either, last year it was choosing between Jahan Dotson and Dameon Pierce. Knowing what you know now, and I had a disagreement with Podfather about this on the Sonic Truth.
I didn't hear it, so let's see if we agree.
Okay, I think that the correct pick is Jahan Dotson. And he said it's not even close. It's Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think the better pick would be Dameon Pierce. We don't even know if he'll start for his team this year.
Well, he's going to start, but not if they get Bijan Robinson.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know. How many times have you gotten excited about an Elijah Mitchell just to get Christian McCaffrey all up in your face?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And that's another example of it working out, right? Elijah Mitchell, and it's not even an every week starter. So obviously the 1st round draft pedigree of Bijan Robinson, that's an easy call, or even Jahmyr Gibbs if he goes in the 1-2 fringe. But it's going to get interesting with, like you said, with these guys that go a little bit later. Day 3 wide receivers, I tend not to draft at all in the rookie drafts because they just never seem to work out at all. But I mean, I'd start taking some tight ends over those guys in late round 2, early round 3. But yeah, Khalil Herbert, who was drafted in late rounds of the real NFL draft, those seem to work out, especially if you need running backs in pockets, because the fantasy football season, you don't need a guy to be like, okay, this guy's great for the rest of the season. How many times do you get those questions at DFSARMY? What's the outlook for Elijah Mitchell for the rest of the season? I don't know. I only know what it's like for the next 2 weeks. That's all I know.
You need those kind of players, though. Your running backs are going to get hurt, and to have these Khalil Herbert types that step in for 3 weeks and put up numbers for you. Yeah, that's what you have to do to build a team. And so there's nothing wrong with grabbing players like that. It's just, be aware.
Pick while you're talking.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm
right.
picking here.
I'll talk through while you pick. Dan again. So I'm interested to also, like in a lot of these dynasty startups. I know a lot of us do super flex leagues. I think that one QB. One of the biggest comments we always get is do some 1 QB drafts, and they are interesting. I mean, I like doing both. I'm going to be in both. I'm going to do some FFPC stuff this year. I've been mostly in the sleeper massive format, so it'll be interesting to see where the quarterbacks go, because that is the real difference. I'm on the clock right now, Geek. I think here now we're just taking some upside shots. And you see, by the way, in the last round, I took Russell Wilson. And now a 3 quarterback build in a dynasty league is not, it's like an FFPC format where you only keep 16 guys and then you build your bench of like 14, whatever it is. is not optimal. But in these leagues that we play in on Sleeper, or if you play on an MFL and there's 30 30 spots total, 20 bench spots, I think 3 quarterbacks is okay to hoard, especially if you took some upside shots. Right here,
I want to point out, though, going back to something before about how, that person, and again, this was a bot, but the person who double taps quarterback early, they're going to be scrambling to sell that second one because they're at a massive disadvantage. If we just look at that team, missing an elite player and having that second quarterback, and then you might be able to flip it for somebody who went before that quarterback went, but maybe not. And it's just, I don't like that way of building a team at all. It's too reliant on your ability to trade a player, and you're kind of desperate to trade him away. It's not a good scene.
Now that we're into the deeper rounds here, Israel Abakanda, the good-looking rookie who's been the fastest riser during the pre-draft process. I mean, Israel Abakanda, he was probably like RB 10 or 12 or later in a lot of drafts, but in a lot of rankings. But after his pro day, Geek, when he blazed and just had all the good-looking workout metrics, is he firmly like the RB4, RB5? I mean, you have to say that he is probably the guy that we weren't even thinking about as a first-round rookie pick in Dynasty, rookie drafts, that now he's probably like the 106, 107. I mean, a guy like that, it seems like he'd be a fit on any team.
You've been very deep into the rookie stuff, and I think the original, and you tell me, I'm really curious about this. The original sort of conventional wisdom was going to be, Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe Charbonnet and Bijan, and then some wide receiver talent, kind of that is like not the best wide receiver talent, second half of the first round. Do you think that the way that the dynasty, after this actual draft maybe plays out, that the real way that it goes down is a lot of these running backs that we thought were going to be around in that second round, like those picks, are going to move up to the first because the wide receivers are not looking as sexy as originally thought?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny that this happens every year, that, trade all your 22s for 23 draft picks. And now we look back, there was no busts in 22. There's literally no wide receiver I'm trying to think, was there a wide receiver that we drafted in the top 2 rounds, top 16 picks?
Yes, there were. I mean,
who busted?
Not a bust, but like,
who?
Are we excited about Sky Moore right now?
Yes.
Excited?
I think that you could, right. I mean, he would be the biggest example of a bust, right? And it's that, but everything's broken in his favor, right? Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a flame out. Juju Smith-Schuster left. I mean, it's him and Kadarius Toney. The coaches in Kansas City have said, we're just looking, these 2 guys are going to be part of the offense. There's been no trade yet. So at least it's not a bust. There's reason for optimism, and his cost right now is reflective of that. Even the next guy down, who maybe disappointed relative to expectation last year, was Treylon Burks, and I'm pumped about Treylon Burks. So really, is that, to answer your original question, is, every year we say, oh, this is going to be the greatest draft, and then it
was looked at mediocre
right
last season, and yeah, it's worked out really well.
So I'm top. There's a couple guys at the top. You obviously talk about Quentin Johnson. I know Jackson Smith and Jigba is like the consensus one. I don't have him at 1. I'm warming up a little bit more to Quentin Johnson as my number 1 guy, but I won't need to do that. I can always move back. And then Jordan Addison. I mean, in the chat right now, put who's going to be your wide receiver 1 and why. So I'm just curious, and I bet you're going to see a lot of JSNs in there. So yeah, I mean, it kind of flattens out pretty good after that. So these running backs, day 3 running backs, might get pushed up ahead of some of these, not the first round guys, but certainly the second round wide receivers in drafts.
I feel like there's way too many 5'9", 170-pound wide receivers coming out of this draft, and I don't know what's happening. What is going on out there, Seslowsky? Why are all the top wide receivers the same size as me? What is happening?
Well, the game is changing. I mean, the rules have changed where you can't grab and clutch as much anymore. There's more of an emphasis on route running than there is on, jamming someone at the line. And frankly, you're getting a lot of guys like Jahan Dotson, who was a supercharged Tyler Lockett. These guys that have sick ups. I mean, Jahan Dotson last year, was he 5'10"-ish, 190 pounds? I know you're talking about guys that are a little smaller than
that. That's not bad. I'll take that.
Right. He might even be smaller than that, but he can out vertical some of these guys. So the game is changing. Offenses are changing. Remember they used to say, like, will this college player's game translate into the NFL? But as you're seeing more and more college coaches go to the NFL, the two style of offenses are becoming are merging. So
I'm going to warn everybody who's watching this who made it to the end.
Here's Laub. He says JSN #1 prospect.
Yeah.
It looks like our guy Kevin Bachledge, he said the same thing. You know, when these guys talk, I'm going to listen. These are two really good.
I'm going to put a warning out there for the watchers. Okay. Maybe we've entered a world where 5'10" quarterbacks like like Bryce Young start working out in the league. And maybe we've entered a new dimension where 5'9", 165-pound wide receivers are great. But you know what's more likely? That it doesn't work out, and that what's been traditional in the NFL continues. These undersized guys are going to disappoint you. And my feeling is proceed with extreme caution. Devontae Smith did not change the mold. He broke a mold in the sense that he was just generally better than everybody else that's come out. But like,
he was also
an exception.
Remember,
the new rule.
He was the Heisman Trophy winner, right? I mean, how often do you see a wide receiver that's a Heisman Trophy winner? So yes, he was a little. He wasn't the prototypical size, and that was a highly debated topic during draft season. But at the same time, it's like the guy was considered the best guy in college football.
This is what I'm saying. I think that people are conflating his success with, now it's fine to have. Just remember Paul Richardson. Do I need to go through the laundry list of Rondell Moores and Paul Richardsons and all these undersized wide receivers? You don't want them. You do not want to take those guys in the first round of your dynasty draft. I was nervous about Devontae Smith. I'll take the L on that one for passing up on him. And now I'm making up for it. I'm trading for him wherever I can.
Take your last couple picks here, and then we'll debate.
Careful. I'm taking whatever rookie is ranked next on this list blindly.
Go ahead. So take him, and then what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll talk about a couple best picks. All right. So as we finished up the draft, and I'll put the draft board in the video description below. Talk to me about just basic dynasty strategy, startup strategy. What do you think in 2023 is still the best way to build a dynasty roster in single quarterback?
Yeah, I think you need to build around youthful wide receivers that will last on your team for long enough and that are plug and play. Effectively, you don't have to think about, am I starting them this week? If you get 3 of those, which I did in this draft here, but if you can have 3 of those, it frees you up to just be flexible. So you can't get young elite wide receivers after. I mean, you can't get young elite running backs either, but at least you can get old ones that do the job for you. So to me, you build around young elite wide receivers, try to get a hero running back, and you're golden.
Yep. Geek. So when you talk about the smaller wide receivers, John Laub, who's in our chat, and he's again he's a great guest on our podcast. He said that he too has changed more of his preference to the speedy guys. Rather than the quintessential Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones types. It's very interesting. I guess the really bottom line is, I know it's simple, but it's like, can you get open, right? Can you get open? Because what's open in the NFL is obviously different than what's open in college football. So yeah, I'm excited for you to get a little bit more into the rookie stuff, because I want to come back and do a rookie sleepers podcast. But my dynasty philosophy is going to differ from yours a little bit. Of course, I want young wide receivers, and I'm going to everyone seems to be doing what the strategy that you said, because it's a good strategy. But I'm going to go anchor wide receiver. I'm going to get Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I want to load up with these young running backs in the first 3 or 4 rounds. So Ken Walker, Travis Etienne. I'm not going to force it. Even Saquon Barkley, who's 26, he still has a 2-3 year window of what I think is top 5 running back production. And I understand the risk, but what do we know about the keys to a championship? The key to a championship, we know a key to a sustained good dynasty team is young wide receivers, but the key to a championship is running backs. So, and I also believe, I said it earlier in the podcast, that you can get cheap older wide receiver points. I just traded in a start 5 wide receivers. So take that into context here. I just traded away Tyler Algier in a league where I was for Keenan Allen. Okay. So you might say, wait a second here. Look, I was able to get those cheap wide receivers. Keenan Allen, would you say he's a lock for top 15 wide receiver production if he stays healthy?
Yeah.
I would say he's a lock for top 9.
I think that's aggressive, but top 15, he's very consistent. Listen, here's my thing. And this is the risk. And you talk about the risk. I'm going to elevate it. You take Saquon Barkley. When you took him today, he will never, ever have more value than the second that you took him. And that's the problem for me. And if you don't win a championship in the next 2 years and you take players like that, and you have a lot of players like that, you are now in a disaster zone of an old team that didn't win, that needs to rebuild. You never got. So if you do that move, that's why it's so important to go all in a move like that. If you do that move and it doesn't work, meaning you don't win all the money, now you've got a declining asset that's declining rapidly. It's hard to replace it on your team. You're at a disadvantage. You need to win when you do it, is all I've got to say, or else you're buying a declining asset.
Yeah, and all true, Geek. So I can't tell you that you're wrong there, but here's the key, because we're talking about startup draft strategy. If you do take Barkley there and you are going for it, and let's just say you're at a point where you realize it ain't going to work out for this season, right? And you're like, oh my God, I really didn't insulate my roster. Barkley is one of those guys still, Christian McCaffrey too, that has in-season. You can recoup your value in season.
So let's explore that for a second. You have a team that's built to win, right? You're looking at the Barkley owner. His team isn't winning this year. The Christian McCaffrey guy, his team's not winning this year. So what is a reasonable price to pay / receive for those guys? Hey, my team, it's good. It's not good enough to take it down. I've got Christian McCaffrey on the team. What can I sell him for? What should I get for him or Barkley? And do you have a preference between McCaffrey and Barkley at all? I think
different? McCaffrey would obviously be the preference, because his game is probably going to age better. But I like what you're talking about here. I have Barkley, I have McCaffrey. I'm in season. I'm 2-7. Right? It's week 9. I'm 2-7. It just didn't work out. Some of the other pieces, whatever it was, my quarterback got hurt, whatever it is. I think you can get, because remember, a contender is going to want one of these guys. So I believe you could, in season, in week 9, heading into the trade deadline, you can get 2 first-round picks, because one of those first-round picks is going to be pick 10. It's not going to be a premium pick, especially in single quarterback. So you can get the 2 firsts. I've done it. Last year, I paid 2 firsts for Barkley on a championship run. I came close. I finished at 11th and lost in the championship, but I needed running back help. So there's going to be people that, and then next year after that, it'll be like, the Najee Harris age group that you have to pay the 2 firsts for. And then Barkley at age 27 turns into a single first, like Leonard Fournette was 2 years ago.
That's that declining asset, right? Like you wait one more year and now it's one. So Christian McCaffrey. So I think that's a possible trade. And again, what are you getting? You're getting a very late first, the last pick in effectively a second, right?
Well, Justin Jefferson was gotten at that point, Dameon Pierce was
fine.
able to get drafted at that point. Treylon Burks, it dropped a little bit. In some drafts, Ken Walker was dropping. So I'm not saying you want to pick 10th, but that's what you should expect on a return. And if you're not comfortable with that return, then do what you just said, draft wide receivers early and don't go for those players. I just understand what the market is. I understand. I'd rather have a 15-20% chance of winning the league and understand that the bottom could fall out than have like a 7% chance to win the league and just know that it's going to take some time. So I'm always pushing all. It's just a difference in
it's not, philosophy. I don't know if it's different. I'm just saying I'm looking to balance it. Like I wasn't disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I'm looking to balance this. I'm always thinking about it. So, and my dynasty team, and I want you guys who are watching this, always be thinking about this stuff. Like, except if your team you ain't got it, right? You ain't got it. Don't wait. You've got to make the moves. You're not always going to find that trade, but I think it's important. And it was helpful to say, hey, it's probably about, a couple of very late firsts is where your value is in a situation like that. So, when you're taking Christian, obviously this bot took McCaffrey in this draft in a silly
That's fine. No, but it's going to happen. I know what you're saying. Like maybe not McCaffrey in a dynasty startup, but look, if someone's in a win now mode, it totally can happen, Geek. So you've been in enough of these dynasty startups at this point that you realize almost anything can happen. All right, everybody. I want you to go follow Kevin, the fantasy football geek, over at FFootballGeek. Everybody knows DFSARMY. Go over there, follow DFSARMY to get all of, heading into the football season and obviously all other sports, baseball. They're crushing it. MMA, always go get their picks over at the Sharp app. Follow the Sharp app, which is his proprietary algorithmed, tools-based app. You can download that for free. The Sharp app here. Let me remove this thing right here. And then follow me at Alan Seslowsky. And also, RotoWire right now is giving away. You can unlock the paywall for 2 days free. Just go to rotowire.com/pod, and you can unlock the paywall. And Geek, we'll have you back in a few weeks. Once the draft is completed, and we'll do this again. We'll do this exercise again. Maybe we'll get some of the listeners also to participate in the draft. That would be fun as well. Anything else before I let you go here?
No, man, I can't wait till the real draft so we can start to truly evaluate some of these rookies and really dive in to, Bestball and all this good stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait, as always.
Yeah. If you love videos like this, consider hitting the like button, subscribe to the channel. And, each week we put up new video content. And also, if you have SiriusXM, just search The Dynasty Hour. That's The Dynasty Hour. We put up new episodes of our Dynasty show on SiriusXM, which is available on demand. All right, everybody, good luck in your Dynasty leagues. Make some good trades. Let us know about them over on social media or in the YouTube comments.